Now on BBC One, a special film charting the run-up to one of the country's first gay marriages. This item contains flash photography.
You are husband and husband. So congratulations, you may kiss the groom.
It's an historical moment. One of the first same-sex marriages to take place in England or Wales.
I know it's happened, but it's going to take a little while to actually compute that and to realise that we're husband and husband.
John and Bernardo's wedding places them on a legal par with married heterosexuals in every way. But their wedding would have been unthinkable just 50 years ago.
Do you think homosexuals should be sent to prison?
Yes. They were screaming abuse at me, and then they really started to beat me with truncheons.
I didn't understand why I was apparently so different from other people, and I tried to kill myself.
Tonight, we follow the couple who the papers have dubbed the poster boys of gay marriage in the run-up to their big day. And through the personal testimony of older gay men and lesbians, we reveal how hundreds were imprisoned, threatened with electric shock therapy, and even tortured in a bid to rid society of what many believed was a crime against nature.
Bye. Cheers.
What's your favourite dish that I cook?
I love all the things that you do in the oven. The last fish pie that you did was very good.
Myself and Bernardo are very much products of modern times in the sense that we met on the internet.
We met nearly 6 years ago and we've been living together since then.
Bernardo is one of the nicest, gentlest, authentic people I've ever met.
He's just very easygoing, makes my life very easy and very happy.
Half a century ago, when John was born, England was an entirely different place. Two men openly living together in a homosexual relationship would have been hugely controversial.
For many of us, this is revolting, men dancing with men. Homosexuals in this country today break the law.
It meant that many gay men led bleak, secret lives, and those who didn't were often persecuted. Nowhere was this more true than in the army.
It was the biggest mistake of my life to go into the army. I was in the prison cell in Aldershot. They started to beat me with truncheons.
In 1958, John Crawford had to leave his boyfriend when he was called up to do national service. As he trained to serve Queen and country, he knew that to be exposed as a homosexual would result in severe consequences. Today, for the first time, he's returning to his former army camp in Aldershot.
I was so much on my own, even though I was in the army, until one day a guy turned up. He managed to get an army uniform to look sexy, and I made friends with him, and we were nothing else except friends.
But the military police suspected them of being more than just pals. John was arrested and then tortured.
I was put into a police cell. I was not allowed to sit on my bed. Every time the guards changed, they banged their truncheons down the sides of the cell, so I couldn't possibly sleep. They started to beat me. They were determined to break me or they'd have killed me, one or the other. And I admitted that, yes, I was going with somebody, but it was a guy that was nothing to do with the army.
That confession led him to being formally charged. A lack of evidence meant the case was dismissed, yet John was forced to complete his national service.
There was something like 2,000 to 3,000 guys in the camp at that time, and every single one of them knew me as the effing queer. And I had to live with this. And I must admit, when I look back on it now, I did try and commit suicide.
During the 1950s, men like John were systematically targeted by the authorities, and the decriminalisation of certain homosexual acts in 1967 did little to change things.
I grew up in a time when homosexuality was, to some extent, on the fringe of society. So having gone from that to being the first to get married is... I don't know if I can actually comprehend that really fully.
With 8 weeks to go before they say I do, the nerves are beginning to set in.
I am nervous about getting married because we're going into the unknown, but we are doubly nervous because it's the first time 2 men have got married in this country, and that's unprecedented.
Just thinking about it, you think it's a big responsibility or a big decision in your life.
They're reaffirming their commitment to the wedding by choosing their rings.
We are looking for wedding rings.
Fantastic. Are you going for matching bands?
We just had a look at your window, and there are 2 or 3 that we quite like. You like that?
I do like that, yeah. Yeah, the same but different. I quite like that.
John and Bernardo's wedding has been a long time in the planning. They first contacted their local registry office months before the government even announced that gay ceremonies were to be made legal.
I got to know John over the summertime, and he more or less made it clear to me that he definitely wanted to be the first to have a same-sex marriage whenever the law was, or the change was implemented.
But signing up to be the country's first gay grooms has caused them to rethink their wedding plans.
One of the first couples to exchange vows will be John Coffey and his Spanish fiancée, Bernardo Marti.
John Coffey and Bernardo Marti from London are with us.
Our idea originally of our wedding was going to be just my partner, myself, and a couple of friends, because we've been on the press. Suddenly, you know, everybody wanted to join us.
It means their guest list has now grown from 2 to 60.
Do you ever think you'd see the day when you'd be writing your own wedding invitations?
It's a far cry from a time when those in same-sex relationships were locked away and considered mentally ill.
People were committing suicide, and it was still quite a popular opinion that it was something that could be corrected.
At the age of 14, Roger Dewar's parents sent him to a psychiatric ward in a desperate attempt to cure him of homosexuality.
I was initially given hypnosis. How exactly it was supposed to work, I don't know, but it didn't work. So then they tried something else, which was use of an emetic. And they were giving me something which actually made me throw up when I saw pictures of men. That's as far as my therapy went. But other people did have all sorts of things like electric shock therapy, which was suggested for me.
These dubious attempts to cure homosexuals continued in the UK for decades.
I was 16 that was 1972, when I formed a passionate friendship with another young woman. And I didn't think of it as lesbian, and we weren't doing anything sexually, but the school became concerned. And at that point, they called my mother in, and I was taken out of school.
Celia began to fear that she might be a lesbian.
Being bookish, I went to libraries and I looked up the word lesbian, and what the book said was that lesbians were mentally ill, that they came from dysfunctional families, that they were perhaps somewhere between men and women, not real women.
Disturbed by what she had read, she became increasingly isolated, depressed.
I didn't understand what was happening or why I was apparently so different from other people, and I tried to kill myself. Fished me out of a river full of alcohol and drugs, and in the middle of the night, and took me to the local mental hospital.
Hundreds of women were placed in psychiatric institutions simply for expressing their love for another woman.
Psychotherapy was the gentlest option, but there were also what were known as behavioural treatments for sexual orientation at that time, which included things like electric shock treatment. In some rare cases, lobotomies were performed to remove sections of women's brains.
Other lesbians got raped in order to turn them into heterosexuals. I was lucky in that I didn't have, you know, brain surgeries or any of the other sorts of things that were being done. But when I left the mental hospital, I was very angry at what had been done to me.
Do you want aversion therapy? No! Do you want
By the mid-70s, the idea that being lesbian or gay was curable began to be challenged by an emerging gay rights movement.
The aims of GLF were to go out and just say, we are here, we are queer, and there's nothing wrong with us. And GAY stands for good as you.
Yet for homosexuals living outside central London, survival still depended on hiding their sexuality.
Growing up in an Irish Catholic home and realising you were gay pretty early on, it wasn't an easy ride. Everything around you was telling you there was something wrong about you, and you know, even evil, I think, is the word that's used.
To atone for what John had been told was his sin of homosexuality, he turned to God. At the age of 21, he became a novice friar, signing up to a life of celibacy. Today, he's returned to Chilworth Friary in Surrey.
God, it hasn't changed at all. I haven't been here for, I don't know, 32 years. When I spent my year here, for me it was a process of me sort of facing myself. And I thought if I went and joined the church and became a Franciscan friar, became a priest, somehow that would take care of everything. That I suppose I became a non-sexual being.
But suppressing his true identity didn't work.
This new friar turned up, and I remember just seeing him for the first time and thinking, oh my God, and it really was that, oh gosh, something in his eyes, and I began to fall in love with him.
John embarked on a relationship that lasted 6 years and spelt the end of his religious life.
You know, one of the strange things about being here was that it actually protected me from what was going on in the gay community at the time, HIV. Was it the right decision to leave this? Oh, absolutely, I fell in love. I think coming back here has made me realise that you've just got to live your life and be who you are.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Welcome.
With just 2 weeks left, there's still a lot to be done before the big day, so John and Bernardo have come to a gay wedding show.
We are thinking about a cake. Is it fruit cake or sponge cake? What cake is underneath?
That's very cute.
This is just one of around 20 gay wedding shows staged in the last 2 months, catering for the growing numbers of same-sex couples who can now be legally wed.
That's nice.
Gay interest in the sanctity and tradition of marriage is not new.
There's a particular case here from the News Chronicle in 1954. The bridegroom was a woman. Dressed as a man, 26-year-old Violet Ellen Catherine Jones was married in a church to Joan Lee, aged 21.
Curator Stefan Dickers has uncovered evidence that gay men and women have secretly been getting married for decades.
She wore blue trousers, a fawn raincoat and a light blue scarf, carried thick leather gloves and her hair was cropped close. We have stuff from local press, from national press, documenting cases where people have felt themselves so desperate and so in need to make that commitment to their partner that they've gone to extreme lengths to do so.
John and Bernardo are hoping to be the first gay couple to be legally wed. And with only 13 days to go, we've reached a key moment. 9 a.m. at Westminster's registry office.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
It's the first day gay partners can officially give notice of their intent to be married.
Today you're here to declare your legal intent to marry. That means that you're both over the age of consent.
Yep.
The fifth impediment has now gone, which was you have to be different genders. That's no longer.
Good.
It's obsolete as of now.
Ensuring that the betrothed are of opposite sex may be a thing of the past, but the tradition of questioning them individually remains.
So John, if I need to ask you some questions about the man that you intend to marry.
Yeah.
For Bernardo, it's a tense wait.
Well, I'm a bit nervous because they're going to ask me questions about my partner, about John.
And when it's his turn, Bernardo has to prove just how well he really knows John.
Now, the man that you intend to marry, what is his date of birth, please?
I believe it's 6th of June, 1963.
Not quite, close.
62.
Close.
64.
That way.
61.
Yeah.
After a few hiccups, the couple get the all clear. On the way out, they meet two brides-to-be.
when you actually getting married?
On the 29th? Yes. I assume you are as well.
Same day. We're sort of getting down the stroke of midnight.
Oh, you're that couple.
We heard about you.
Yeah, they told us about you when I called up. Oh, that's wonderful.
So in our case, we're going to be called husband and husband.
Yeah, husband.
And wife and wife, yeah. We've already kind of tested it out a bit, wife-to-be and things like that.
Just not used to it.
There are several gay and lesbian couples signing up to be married today. Many of them are aiming to be England's first same-sex partners to walk down the aisle, but technically, that title may already be taken.
I met Sue in 1984. I met her at a professional conference. We're both psychologists.
And over the next few years, we met at other conferences.
We just kind of founded a friendship, and it moved from a friendship into something else.
And we became a couple in 1990.
Work commitments meant the couple ended up in Canada.
Canada was changing its law to permit same-sex marriage, and suddenly there was this possibility of getting married.
That's in the conservatory in bright Vancouver sunshine.
The day we got married, we found when we woke up we were both surprisingly nervous. We had a very small ceremony, and then we signed a register, and we were proclaimed wife and wife together.
And it changed everything. I hadn't anticipated what it would feel like to come in from the cold.
I don't think I expected the emotional intensity of it. It really made a difference being married and not just a long-term couple.
But when the pair returned home to Britain, they discovered their marriage was null and void, not legally recognised.
This was before civil partnerships had been introduced, so we had no protections under law.
We were back at square one, if you like, as just a long-term couple.
Sue and Celia launched a high-profile legal campaign to get their marriage acknowledged in the High Court, arguing that they were being discriminated against.
The outcome of that was, sadly, we lost. The judge ruled that that discrimination was justified.
Because it protected the heterosexual nuclear family. That was a very disappointing, very distressing time, because basically we'd been stripped of our marriage.
Yet 8 years later, a letter arrived from the government stating that their marriage would be recognised on the 13th of March this year, a whole fortnight before any other gay couple could legally marry.
Great excitement, great joy. We're really, really thrilled to be considered married and one of the first.
We questioned whether marriage would ever be legal in our lifetime for us in this country. I can't believe that it has come so quickly. It's an amazing feeling.
Bye! Cheers.
But Westminster's Chief Registrar has devised a plan to make John and Bernardo the first gay couple to be legally married on English soil.
Here in Westminster, we're going to endeavour to ensure that John and Bernardo are the first couple to have a same-sex marriage.
March the 29th was the first time that weddings were allowed to take place at midnight, and Alison planned her strategy around this relaxation of the rules.
The important thing is to ensure that we get the timings right. We've checked our clock against the speaking clock. We're geared up to ensuring that we issue that document on the stroke of midnight or as close to enable the legal words to be said as soon as that authority is issued.
Our couple are shopping for wedding suits. When they exchange vows in 10 days' time, it will be a symbolic victory for gay equality. But there are many who believe allowing homosexuals to marry is a mistake.
Is homosexuality something that damages society? I would say that ultimately it would. I think the situation today where two men and two women want to be in a marriage relationship is a completely unprecedented context.
Stephen and Dennis are now married.
I do, as a Christian, have strong reservations about whether that's the best way for society.
Married with 2 children, Dr. Davidson speaks from good experience. He was once gay himself.
Am I an ex-gay? I never used the term gay, but there was a time where my feelings for people of the same sex were quite strong. and I stepped out of marriage or out of my relationship with my wife.
He claims to have gone from gay to straight by using psychotherapy and religious counselling, known in some circles as pray the gay away.
So tell me a bit about how things are.
He now provides this treatment to others and, controversially, has even used a bus ad campaign to attract those who are unhappy with their sexuality.
What we offer is psychotherapeutic support for men and women who want to explore the possibility either to manage, reduce, or in some cases, where possible, eliminate homosexual feelings.
But Dr. Davidson's theories have been rejected by the UK Council for Psychotherapy, and his ad campaign is the subject of a court case. As a brand stylist at a garden centre, Bernardo is perfectly placed to pick the flowers for his own wedding.
Flowers in a wedding means love. They really create a special kind of atmosphere in the venue.
And with just 5 days left, the couple have come to view Mayfair Libraries, the venue of their wedding.
Hello there, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Bernardo, nice to see
Nice
you
to
again.
meet you.
So here we are. So the ceremony will take place at the top after you've walked together, hand in hand, down the aisle. And presumably we'll talk about music and that sort of thing if you're planning to have music to walk into.
So what's your first thoughts?
Very formal, kind of, you know.
We've even got stained glass for you. It's a bit sort of churchy, isn't it?
The fact it isn't a church is the one detail that separates gay and straight ceremonies. Both the Church of England and the Catholic Church are opposed to the idea of same-sex unions, and they are lawfully allowed to refuse gay couples.
The Church respects everybody, whether they're homosexuals or not. But in its teaching on sex, it says that sex is for marriage between a man and a woman. It has this vision of sexuality for marriage, for procreation.
The Church may be struggling with the idea of gay equality, yet there is no doubt that the last 20 years has witnessed a radical transformation in attitudes and policies on homosexuality.
The government is shortly expected to begin the process of making gay sex legal at 16.
2 women in Northern Ireland have made legal history, becoming the first UK couple to take part in a civil partnership ceremony.
From the dismantling of anti-gay legislation, like Clause 28, to the right to adopt children, there has been an about-turn in the established view, even in the most staid of British institutions.
Tuesday, 12th of June 2007, and this is in Basra. This is a diary from when I went to Iraq. Last night I had a long chat with Tom. I'm such a lucky person to have somebody like Tom waiting for me back at home.
At the age of 20, James served on the front line in the Middle East as an openly gay man. But when he first enlisted in the army, he was warned to hide his sexuality.
The day I joined the army, when I was 16, the person who was in charge of us during basic training made it quite clear that he didn't like gay people. In his welcoming address, he told us all, do not come out if you're gay, because this is not the place for gay people.
The homophobia made it difficult for James to initially come out. But within a decade, prejudice against gays in the army had been transformed.
I'm really pleased how the army has changed over the past 10 years. There are many significant achievements. In 2008, gay people in the military were allowed to march at London Pride in uniform. In 2010, I had my civil partnership to Tom, and we actually enjoyed our reception within the walls of the barracks where I served in Knightsbridge. That's an incredible change. And today there are hundreds of lesbian and gay people in the military.
James has come to the army base in Aldershot. He's meeting John, who was imprisoned and abused for being gay when he served over 50 years ago.
It's changed so much that I don't recognise anything over the last 50 years. I was at North Camp. It wasn't quite the army I expected. I was put into this prison and I was beaten and beaten and beaten.
My coming out situation was very different to yours. Obviously the law had changed in 2000 for gay people in the military, and all my colleagues were fantastically supportive. Everybody, you know, everybody was just so nice. Are you pleased that it's changed? Are you pleased that the military's obviously a lot further forward with this?
Yes, but it hasn't gone far enough, in my opinion.
John has never got over the harsh treatment he endured while in service here half a century ago. Incarcerated, tortured, and then unfairly given a criminal record, the injustices have haunted him ever since.
After what I went through with the army, I would like very much for the police to give me an apology. I know I'll never get it, but I would like it after 50 years of hassle.
Life is now very different for gay men and lesbians in modern Britain, a point underlined by John and Bernardo's wedding day. After weeks of stress, final preparations are undertaken with military precision. Moments before the event, Bernardo has something to tell John.
John?
Yep.
I've got here a surprise for you.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
Do you like them?
And then they're not rings we chose, but yeah, that's...
These are made from my dad's wedding ring.
Perfect. Look.
As they set off to be wed, their guests are already taking their seats. An unusual wedding from any perspective, the ceremony begins with a bilingual short speech by the grooms.
We want to acknowledge all those people around the world who are persecuted for who they are.
Para marcar la importancia de este evento, queremos conmemorar...
We're now going to light a candle to remember them in this joint ceremony.
Another peculiarity, John and Bernardo's heterosexual friends, Jose and Anoa, are also getting married here tonight to emphasise the theme of equality.
I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you here tonight, to these very special wedding ceremonies which are celebrating such a huge moment in the history of equality.
The pressure is on to ensure this is England's first gay wedding, so proceedings are halted to ensure the vows can commence just seconds after midnight.
Looking at your groom, please repeat after me. Bernardo, I give you this ring.
Bernardo, I give you this ring.
As a symbol.
As a symbol.
Of my love.
Of my love.
And my commitment.
And my commitment.
John, I give you this ring.
As a symbol.
As a symbol.
Of my love.
Of my love.
And my commitment.
And my commitment.
So it only remains for me now, with the greatest pleasure, to declare that you are husband and husband. So congratulations, you may kiss the groom.
After the wedding, it's just been like a big release. It's just like, inside of me I feel so good, and the response of people was amazing, and just looking at John was, you know, I could see there was, both of us, we were just in the same mood and we were so happy.
And Westminster Registry Office have confirmed John and Bernardo's certificates for marriage were issued at the stroke of midnight, and the wedding was completed within a minute. That makes them the first gay couple to be married in England.
Cheers.